Sean.
Mike?
What is this? A crossover episode? Sean doing the do-do-do-do's. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. That's Sean. We are the Squid Boys, and we're here doing, what is this, a crossover episode? The BoJack Horseman podcast. So a bit of housekeeping, Sean, before we dive into episode 11,
Yes.
downer ending. So Sean sucks. No, it's not Sean's fault. There was some weird audio issues with Sean's recording.
It was my fault. I suck.
It was definitely his fault. He sucks.
It was my fault.
There were some weird issues with the audio recording for episode 10, One Trick Pony. And so what we decided to do is I'm still editing that episode. And if you look down in the description of this episode, you will see a link to that episode. The video is not public, but if you click the link, you can go listen to it. The audio is pretty bad, though. I'm going to be honest with you. So if you guys really care about what we had to say about this episode, you can go listen to that. Otherwise, we're going to do just a very small recap of One Trick Pony before diving into episode 11, Downer Ending. Does that sound good, Sean?
That sounds great to me.
So a very small recap of One Trick Pony. Basically, what's happening in this episode is BoJack is shooting the movie about Mr. Peanut Butter stealing the Hollywood D for Diane, but really, BoJack stole the D for Diane, not Mr. Peanut Butter, but Mr. Peanut Butter took credit for it, and now he's continuing to take credit for it with this movie. And BoJack starts a relationship with Naomi Watts, the actress, who is actually just getting into character as Diane, and that's why she's having sex with BoJack, ? Wallace Shawn from The Princess Bride plays BoJack. Mr. Peanut Butter's upset that BoJack's not wearing V-neck shirts like he does in playing him. And then the movie kind of just falls apart because Todd and Quentin Tarantino, the director, turn it into a bi-monthly curated box of snacks as opposed to a film. Other things that happen, the book gets leaked. Diane leaks the first 2 chapters of her book, even though BoJack hates it. And everybody kind of laughs at him about apple fritters and all the embarrassing things that were posted on BuzzFeed about his book. And he fires her at the end of the episode. That's how the episode ends. He fires her, and it's kind of messy and not the friendship that we had seen from them before. Is there anything else important that happens, Sean?
I don't think so. I think you nailed it all. I gotta say, I've got your next podcast for you.
What's that?
You sit Tara down and you explain the plot of BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
Because somehow it's even more ridiculous when you don't watch it and you just explain what happened. I mean, I watched it, but even you recapping it just then, I was like, this makes no fucking sense. Even I'm like, somehow it made it's already insane, right?
Right.
But somehow this makes it sound more insane.
Yeah, well, part of it's my delivery, I think, because I'm like, okay, so the thing happens with the... But, yeah, no, it's... Go listen to the episode if you want more than that. The good news about the audio issues is that it's kind of an inconsequential episode for the most part.
Yeah.
You just really need to know that Diane leaked the book and BoJack's upset about it to get into this next episode.
Yes.
Is basically all you need to know.
And I think all you need to know about how we felt was I actually really liked it because I thought it was funny. I really enjoyed the kind of this stuff with the Naomi Watts character. There was a lot of satire about Hollywood. And Mike enjoyed it, but it didn't sound like he enjoyed it as much as I did.
I think it's a step backwards episode-wise from the previous episode.
Yeah.
But I also concede that that's necessary. Not every episode can be like this wild ride. Like this next episode is episode 11, Downer Ending. So anything else to say about One Trick Pony before we dive into that, Sean?
Let's talk about Downer Ending.
Let's talk about Downer Ending, episode 11. It's...
well, actually, first of all, I'm sorry. We have to talk about what happened on this day.
Well, you cut me off, but
Sorry.
It aired August 22nd, 2014.
Oh, shit. I fucked up again.
And so we're going to go to our favorite website, www.onthisday.com.
For the second to last time.
For the second to last time. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Number one song on the U.S. music charts was "Magic" by Rude and "Am I Wrong" by Nico and Vince. Except it was "Rude" by Magic though. I switched it up too much there. I mixed up the song and the band. Second, Ebola death in Nigeria, Africa's most populated country. And California Attorney General Kamala Harris, you might know her as the First Lady. Nope, that's not what you call it. The Vice President. The Vice President. Mary's lawyer, Douglas Emhoff in Santa Barbara. He is the second man now.
No, it was second gentleman, right?
Second gentleman, that's what it is.
The second lord.
The second lord of the lady.
Oh, the lady.
So that's
second lady.
That's what happened in August 22nd, 2014.
I can't believe you brought the Ebola death thing up.
No, I did.
I can't believe that you did.
Oh, why?
It's just I wasn't ready for it.
Oh, you weren't ready for the second Ebola death in Nigeria, Africa's most populated country?
I was not ready for it.
Well, in similar fashion, I don't think you were ready for this episode, Sean.
I really fucking wasn't. I was expecting something from this episode, and what was delivered to me was kind of what I was expecting. I was expecting the first half of this episode to be about what it was, and then we'll talk about it. But
yeah. Well, what'd you think of it overall, I guess?
That's what I really enjoyed this episode overall. I think the best way I can express my feelings about this episode is normally I take about 1.5 pages to 2 pages of notes while I'm watching. I have about 3/4 of a page for this episode after having seen it twice. Cause I ended the episode the first time and I just let out like a very loud exhale.
Yes.
It was a episode that made me feel very uncomfortable for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It made me feel very sad for some of it, and just never really happy. There's some funnies in there, and I'm like, ooh man, there's actually some funnies that I think are detrimental to the episode a little bit. There's one in particular that we'll talk about that I think is.
It's funny. I know exactly what you're gonna say.
And
we'll get to it. I know exactly what you're gonna say.
I think it works because it leads to something good, but I think, especially on rewatch, I was like, did we need to do these jokes beforehand?
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I really enjoyed this episode. The one thing I just want to say now to get it out of the way, because they're going to mention it a couple times throughout the episode, and I don't want to bring it up every time. Lots of John Grisham jokes in this episode.
Yeah, The Firm.
Yeah, which John Grisham is an author.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's my side of the.
Wait, are you gonna explain that reference to me? Because I'd love that. Normally it's me that has to do that.
John Grisham writes a lot of books. And I believe that normally they're like kind of short. He puts out like a book every year pretty much.
Right. So like Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like as good. I don't think he's not like James Patterson, right? Where James Patterson doesn't even write his own books. But he's definitely like, people joke about him because he sells fucking like hotcakes. His books do crazy. It's like if your book can sell, like if you're doing as well as John Grisham in terms of like on the bestsellers list or whatever, like that's a big fucking accomplishment. Sanderson always jokes whenever a book comes out, he's like, we didn't beat Grisham this time, but maybe next time we'll beat him.
Okay.
Because I think he did beat him a couple years ago with one of his books. But anyways,
this has been Sean's Book Nerd Corner.
Yeah, John Grisham.
Thank you, Sean.
Also, I didn't know this until I just looked up John Grisham. Former member of the 7th District of the Mississippi House of Representatives.
Oh. So he's like the 32nd man. Right? Is that how that works?
Along with Tom Clancy and, J.K. Rowling, Grisham is one of only 3 authors to have sold 2 million copies on a first printing.
All right. I'd like to unsubscribe from John Grisham facts.
Yeah, let's stop with John Grisham.
Unsubscribe, all caps.
Weird amount of John Grisham jokes in this episode, just to the point where I was like, man, we're still making jokes about John Grisham.
Yeah.
I appreciate them, but I wasn't expecting it.
So into the episode, the non-Grisham parts of the episode.
Yes.
We open the episode at Penguin Publishing, where Diane and Bojack and Pinky are discussing releasing the book. Diane obviously wants to release the book. Bojack's upset about the book. Pinky wants to release the book because by the end of the week, because the repo men are coming to get the printers.
Which is like, at that point, you're done. What the fuck are you going to do without printers?
Right, exactly. Then what are we doing here? I like Pinky's coffee cup. It says "World's Third Best Dad." I don't know who would get him that cup, but there it is.
Stepkids, apparently.
Bojack is really mean to Diane here.
I wrote down a note where I was like, Bojack's rant just made me deeply uncomfortable. Like, a lot of the time when Bojack is being an asshole, it's kind of funny. This wasn't funny.
This is just him. This is the worst part of Bojack. It's just him being mean. He starts off kind of mockingly, like he kind of says, "Ooh, I have glasses because I'm so important. I need to see clearly." So it's kind of like what a funny weird argument. But then I have the quote here, what he says, because she no-sells it at first. She goes, "Hey, I know you're upset." And he goes, "I'm not upset. I'm just sick of nerd girls like you beating up on stars like me. It's pathetic. I'm sorry no one wanted to date you in high school, Diane, but I don't see why I have to suffer just because you were never especially pretty or interesting."
Dude, like, Bojack's a capital G gamer, dude. Holy shit.
That was very rough. And she just stares for a second, says, "You really let me down, Bojack," and leaves.
Ooh.
And Bojack brings up to Pinky, he can write a book in less than a week that's better than Diane's, and he's going to write a book so good it's going to kick Pinky's dick off.
And that it's going to be so good that Pinky can burn all the books.
Yeah.
Which was definitely a stance for Bojack to take. Bojack in favor of burning books.
Fun fact, penguins don't have dicks.
Oh, thank God. I didn't know where you were going to go with.
Fun fact, penguins don't have dicks, Sean, so he couldn't kick his dick off.
Okay, good to know. That's I didn't know what fun fact was about to come out of your mouth.
So then we go to Bojack's house where he types chapter 1, and that's about as far as he gets for a while.
Yeah, it's like the SpongeBob episode where he has to write an essay for boating school, and all he gets is the.
Yep.
It's a pretty good episode.
A lot of funny commentary here on just, procrastination. First, Princess Carolyn calls and she coughs up a hairball on the phone, which is uncomfortable. She also says the guy that that murdered a bunch of people and ate all their fingers.
Teachers'
fingers.
Teachers.
He's got married in jail and he's getting out, and you could be that guy.
Man. Do you want to be that guy, Mike?
I don't want to be that guy. Even if he sells a successful book, I don't want to be him.
Neither do I.
He, struggles with the font for about 3 hours, which I thought was funny because he comments on a couple fonts.
Yeah. Also on that call with Princess Carolyn, he's oddly honest to her, and that he's not like, "Oh, we need a more entertaining book." He's like, if people are exposed to the real Bojack, they're going to hate me. Because I hang out with the real Bojack all the time, and I know that nobody would want to be around me,
That's the real fear here.
It's just interesting that to Princess Carolyn, he outwardly straight up just expresses his real fear instead of hiding as he does around other people. I think it just says a lot about their relationship. That
he's comfortable enough with her. She knows him, right?
Yeah. I don't know that there's anybody else in the cast that he would be that easily open with.
Maybe Todd.
I don't know. Even I think later in this episode, we see him like he's deflecting like a lot on Todd. Maybe with Todd.
I guess maybe Todd early on, but not after he hurt Todd, because then you know what I mean?
And I think he'd need to build up to it with Todd.
Yeah.
Like I don't like Princess Carolyn calls and he's immediately like, "Yep, this is the thing." Where I think with Todd it would be like, let's talk for a few minutes and I'll say some wild shit and then I'll get to what I really want to say.
He messes with the font. He he starts reading Diane's book again at one point, and then decides he wants to burn it. I don't remember what the excerpt is he reads, but it's like, something very damning to him.
Talking about flashing his wealth and whether that comes from, like,
that's right. He has to try and press her with things. So he talks about the painting. He throws a match in there, and it kind of just peters out. Then he throws another match in, and it kind of just peters out.
It's funny, but I don't think I do think it's funny. But I was watching it, and I actually thought that was really, good, beyond just being like funny, because at least what I took from it, and I don't know if this is what they intend, is this idea of like you can't burn the truth away.
Right.
So this is like,
for sure.
This is him trying to, like, this is what she wrote is real, and so I thought it was a funny joke, but also I was like, that's really good.
Yeah. He sits next to Todd. He's just really struggling to get anything done. He sits next to Todd, and he's blaming Todd. Wow, Todd, read louder much?
Yeah.
Todd, you're getting toaster strudel crumbs all over. How am I supposed to write in this scenario? So then he gets a vacuum, but the vacuum's full. So then he gets a handheld vacuum, but that vacuum's full. So then he goes to Beast Buy and buys like 5 vacuums and makes this like interconnected vacuum train on his floor, which is like, holy shit.
This is when I wrote down BoJack is me for real with this anything but writing montage.
Yep.
We've
all been there.
Yeah, I become the most productive person when I'm supposed to be writing. But I'm not with the writing. I'm doing everything but that. Just another general note about the episode. I really like the atmosphere of the beginning of this episode. It's raining outside.
Yep.
And I think later on there's another really good scene with really great atmosphere. But just all the backgrounds look really good with the rain outside. I really can't even think of another time where it's been like that.
Yeah, they make a point of showing you the rain and the gloominess outside and how it's, it's not something they did it on purpose, obviously, because it's not something they do often in BoJack's house, even though we have a view of the outside pretty much all the time. He gets to a point where he's just making all these excuses for why he can't. He has to do this first. He has to do this first. He has to do this first, and then he can write. Then he starts drinking. Then he's smoking. Then he's coffee. Or first coffee, cigarettes, tequila. I need to write music. To do drugs too.
Yeah, dude. When he got to the tequila part, and then he was like, "I need music." I was like, "Oh, I really thought he was gonna say drugs." And he's like, "To do drugs too." And I was like, "Yeah, there's BoJack."
Yep. And Sarah Lynn and Todd. The return of Sarah Lynn.
I wasn't expecting that. I was like, "Fuck, that's a kid that, well, not a kid anymore, obviously, but played his kid on the show that he had sex with earlier in the season."
She returns, and Doctor Who.
Yeah, this joke was. This isn't the joke that I had a problem with. But
you don't like the Doctor Who joke? Dr. Alan Who?
I think it's a fine joke. I didn't think it was. It didn't make me laugh out loud the first time, and it didn't make me laugh out loud the second time. I was like, this is a decent. I think I've heard the Who's on Third a million times.
Okay, so I get what you're saying. The Who's on Third played out joke, but when Todd goes into the Dr. Quinn medicine woman part of it,
that part was funny. I liked that part.
That's fucking good.
I love the Dr. Quinn. They called her medicine girl or medicine woman or whatever. Like that was funny. The rest of it, like, it's a funny joke. I can appreciate it. Like, I know that it's a funny joke. It's just I had a.
Sean really hates Doctor Who. That's crazy.
At the job I used to work at, my boss would talk about this joke probably once a month. The Who's on Third, as if he'd never talked about it before. So I just the Who's on Third. I'm like, yes, I get it. I get the joke. It's funny. Let's move on, please. I don't want to hear about this anymore.
Okay, fair enough. Doctor Who gives BoJack a lot of drugs and he gives him a lot of rules, and BoJack just replies, "Okay, so Gremlin rules." He goes, "Precisely." Now I need to go do open heart surgery on some kid, and then he does a line of coke and walks out. Doctor Who, probably the worst doctor I've ever met.
That's true about Doctor Who as well. In in this scene as well, another part that I thought was funny around the Who's on Third joke was Sarah Lynn's like, sometimes I just laugh so he'll leave me alone.
Yes, and they reference that a couple times later, which is funny. Yep.
I was like, do people ever do that with me? I was like, oh no. I was like,
well, later on he goes, are you just laughing so I leave you alone? And she goes, so funny. Like she doubles down on it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no.
So everybody starts taking drugs, and we have this section that I wrote, unhinged writing, where everybody's got like bloodshot eyes and they're just typing maddeningly at this computer.
I would say, like during this portion, even when BoJack is trying to make himself sound good, he still comes across as an asshole.
Right.
Because Todd is like, oh, I'm writing about when we became best friends. Which, like, if you look at it on like a large, like if you look at this from the public point of view, right? BoJack befriending Todd is something they would eat the fuck up. Because Todd is like this down on his luck, like poor, like fucking like stoner, and people eat up like the fucking, it makes BoJack seem like a charity case, right? Like, or it makes Todd seem like a charity case to BoJack, which people fucking eat up when celebrities do that.
Right.
Whenever something comes out about like, oh, this person, look at how nice he is to the rest of us, like people love that shit. Right. But even when this is like the best possible thing that Todd could write for BoJack's like, let's like make it sound like I'm a good acquaintance.
Right.
Like we're not best friends.
We're not best friends, yeah.
Like it's like, oh, BoJack.
Sarah Lynn references a episode of Horse Around where Hulk Hogan comes on and reminds everybody to say no to drugs. And then BoJack goes, if Hulk Hogan could see us now, and they both go, what?
They also do a really good effect or a really good animation thing where she says that, and then it cuts to BoJack, and he like becomes multiple of himself, like he kind of distorts a little bit.
Yeah,
and then he says that.
Then he says Hulk Hogan could see us now, and they go, what? And he goes, because you just said the thing about Hulk Hogan. They're like, that was hours ago. He's like, oh. So they're finishing up their writing, and BoJack goes into the bathroom, and he sees in the mirror a real horse.
Yeah, and this is when I was like, okay.
Yeah. And things start to, this is where things really start to go off the rails here. He comes back.
So my next two notes, just for, I really don't know when my next note is going to pop up, but these next two notes are, oh my God, and watching this at 4 a.m. is a trip.
Yeah. Watching it at 4 p.m. is a trip. It's a pretty wild, it's just a very wild situation. So
it is.
He comes back out, and they're talking about stuff, and Todd just, first of all, their bodies get switched.
Yes.
And he goes, did you guys change clothes? But their actual body, their heads got moved onto each other's body for a moment. And then Todd speaks backwards.
Yeah.
You want to know what he says, Sean?
I do want to know what he says.
He says, I'm talking backwards. That's all he says. And then they remind BoJack, they're trying to figure out how to end the book, and they remind him, hey, we like your ending. And BoJack's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, they're talking when you go retire up in Maine and have a family, and we know from previous episodes that that's where Charlotte lives.
Yep, I wrote that down.
And he tells this story was, and at the end I go for one last swim, and I realize I'm not strong enough to make it, so I just let the water take me. And Todd goes, yeesh, downer ending, which I'm sitting here pointing at the screen. He said the thing. He said the end of the episode.
Roll credits.
But then they get on in a way that only someone on drugs could. They go, well, wait, we can't write the end of the book because your life hasn't ended yet. What if we killed you?
I was like, oh my God. This is when I wrote, what the fuck is happening?
And Sarah Lynn's like, I'm the girl you raised on television. People would eat it up if I murdered you.
Which, you know what? She's fucking right. They would.
Right.
That'd be a fucking true crime podcast.
Right. And Todd's all in. He's like, yeah, kill BoJack. And there's this, it's playing a Death Grips song. I had to look up who did the song. It's playing a song by Death Grips. And they're like trying to kill BoJack, and Sarah Lynn like bites his ankle, and Todd cuts him with a knife, and they do this shot where the lightning strikes, and BoJack's like yelling to the sky in pain, and it's just like this insane scene. That makes you go, what the fuck is happening?
Which is exactly what I wrote down.
Right. And they calm down because they realize like they shouldn't be trying to kill BoJack, I think. I don't know. You know how drug people just sometimes when you're on drugs, you kind of just like stop caring about what you were fixated on like so hard like 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what he says. We all learned a lesson here, and I don't remember what he said. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
We should only do like a lot of drugs in a house.
Oh, if we're going to be in the safety of our home. That's right. That's what it is. If we're going to be, which they are.
Jesus Christ.
And then he pulls out a gun. And in previous episodes, we saw his gun lighter, right?
Yes.
And Todd goes, is that your gun lighter or your lighter that's a gun? He goes, oh, relax, it's my lighter. And then he shoots it in the air to light his cigarette. Yeah. And it's a gun. And he goes, wait, what did I give that baby?
I was like, what?
Either way,
like,
not a good thing to give a baby.
No. I was like, why did you give anything to the baby?
Don't give anything that looks like a gun to a baby.
Dude, I was like, I thought he was going to fucking shoot one of them with it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's definitely getting on this uncomfortable, like teetering on a cliff kind of like thing where it's like, something terrible is going to happen. What's going to happen? Todd has a broom and he thinks it's a gun. And
then it becomes a gun.
He's like, wait, do I have the gun, Todd, or do you have the gun? And they do this crazy shot where Todd has like this fucking sniper rifle. Yeah. And it's from like the barrel of the gun. And he goes, I can't tell anymore. And he's like, I guess we just need to shoot each other to find out who has the gun. And to interrupt this, BoJack is like, Todd, I need you, Todd, I need you to listen to me, Todd. We're shooting each other just to find out, just to find out if it's a gun or not. You're not shooting me because you're mad at me that I ruined your rock opera, right? Todd goes, BoJack. Like the way you only talk to someone when you're under the influence of something. He goes, as you know, I was hurt, but then I realized that's just who you are, or how you are, you know. And maybe I need to stop expecting you to be a good person, so that way I won't get hurt when you're not. And even in this drug-fueled madness, that piece of truth is devastating. It's devastating.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we jump back into the gun thing, and I think BoJack says something like, you know, hey, if we all had guns, then we'd all be safe. Wait a minute, I think we just solved the gun crisis. Which is just, that's literally the argument people have about guns, is we should all have guns and everybody's safe. Yeah. And it's like, no.
It was definitely a very funny bit. I think we just solved the gun crisis was a good punchline.
And then now we got to solve the drug crisis by taking them all. And so they all just start taking drugs. And the next part is actually
horrific.
I've seen this episode multiple times, and for a split second, I was like, "Oh, wow! I remember this drug trip going longer." They fake you out because they do like the stinger thing where it goes to the next scene, like the bing 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 kind of thing, and it's BoJack and Diane on his bed talking, and she's apologizing and saying they can write the book together, and he's like, "Really?" But then she kisses him, and you're like, "Wait a minute!"
You're like, "This isn't real."
And then her eyeball pops, and she becomes this fucking horrible monster.
It is one of the grossest things I've ever seen in an animated series. It was disgusting.
It's disgusting. And he goes, "What happened to you?" And she goes, "I ate too many pancakes." And he goes, "Oh shit, I'm still tripping."
Yeah.
And she starts to like grab onto him, and he's freaked out. And then we go inside BoJack's brain, and I actually took a list, Sean,
Okay.
of things we see in BoJack's brain as he's running around.
Tell me all about them.
Okay, so floating in the air, there's a muffin package,
Okay.
a Valentine that says "Daddy" on it, and I presume it's a Valentine he made for his dad. That one's the only one where I'm like, okay, I don't understand what the reference is right now, but maybe later we do.
Okay.
Probably
Probably
an article,
just dad problems.
right, just his daddy issues.
Yeah.
An article titled "Where's the D?"
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard that one before?
The what? Where's the D?
Yeah. Have you ever?
Was that a joke, Sean?
Yeah, it was a joke. I thought it was gonna land better.
Stick to the who's on third jokes.
All right.
The Secretariat book that was written by Diane. They mentioned that really early on in the show, but I don't know if we remember that right now. But she wrote Secretariat's book.
Yes, I remember that.
Yep. Another article titled "Stupid BoJack writes a stupid book about his stupid life. Nobody cares." The actual Hollywood D.
Yes.
The telescope.
Yes.
That Herb gave him. His TV Guide award that Sarah Lynn pawned after he gave to her. An article titled "Horsing Around Canceled." Another article titled "Muffin Kerfluffle." A couple capsules of pills, a bunch of pills.
Yes.
The Capitan 7, which is the game he
Oh, yes. Yeah.
tricked
That he
Todd
got
in the plane.
Yeah.
Some toaster strudels.
Yeah.
The bag of stale buns that he tried to give to Neil McBeal, Navy SEAL, as a.
Oh God, I miss Neil McBeal.
Yep, Neil McBeal's great. And then the D necklace that Mr. Peanut Butter got Diane that started that whole D thing. So those are all the things he runs by, in that section. A lot about the Hollywood D in there.
It was a big deal for him.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Apparently.
So then he gets trapped in a brain synapses, and he starts reliving things in his life that are a little more things we haven't really talked about yet. And there's one of him getting laughed at what appears to be a prom or a homecoming of some kind in high school. There's another one where he's sitting there benched at a soccer game alone. He looks very sad. There's him sneezing on some celebrity at his house.
And then he falls over the side
over the side of the thing, which I don't think that's actually part of that story.
There too. So
Santa Claus is there for some reason. Not sure why that is. And then we have Herb appearing.
But it's interesting because I'm kind of looking back at this as you're going through them, because Herb is old Herb. He's
Herb hooked up to an IV and such. Dying
BoJack. BoJack is young BoJack in there.
Yep. And they're at the planetarium.
Yes.
Where they originally made the thing that we're gonna own LA, blah blah blah, and the telescope and all that. And then he runs through the diner they often go to, and it's full of Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah, this one's a nightmare.
And they're just going, Mr. Peanut Butter, Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah, so, I get it.
This is actually a reference to Being John Malkovich. I don't know if you caught that.
Is it really?
Yeah. Inside John Malkovich's head in the movie, there's a diner filled with John Malkoviches, and they just all say Malkovich, Malkovich, Malkovich.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I saw it, and I was like, that's from Being John Malkovich, isn't it?
I was just like, yeah, this is a horrifying place to find yourself.
Right. So we're still tripping. He ends up not having outlines, which is a very creative thing they did. You know, he goes, he's freaking himself out by not having outlines. And then he kind of turns into a paint splotch, which then turns into the painting that we often see behind his desk, where it's him standing over himself swimming. And Diane and BoJack are standing over him. And BoJack goes, shouldn't we help him? And she goes, no, he loves treading water.
What a good line, too. Like, that's what BoJack does.
Yep.
Pretty much every single day is he just treads water.
And then we're on the set of Horsing Around, where he's freaking out and he screws with the line, and young Herb comes in and goes, "No, BoJack, get your head out of your ass." The line is, "This is all I am and all I'll ever be." And BoJack goes, "This is all I am and all I'll ever be." And it's like, oh, what is happening? Because this is going from like kooky trip to this is some serious fucking shit, right? And you're like, oh no. And then I think that this next part, I think, is what you're referencing about the joke, right?
I don't think so, no.
No? Oh, okay. I thought it was the penis butter and vagella sandwich.
No, actually.
Really?
Yeah, you're right, though. It's not a very funny joke.
Right. Well, and it's. I don't even think it's supposed to be played for a joke. It's supposed to be played how fucked up it is that he had sex with her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really think about that part. Yeah.
So then she becomes an adult and she goes, "Give me a penis butter and vagella sandwich, bitch."
Yeah.
And then he's in. You look off screen of the set and there's old man Todd.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Like with two paths. Two paths. One like looks like it's going into like the fucking galaxy. I don't remember what the other one. I don't think they even show what the other one is. And Todd says, "No. Well, isn't it too late to say no, BoJack? This is the road you chose."
Ugh.
And it's like, oh, what is happening?
Oh God.
And then we cut back to BoJack, and he's sinking in tar pits, like Charlotte said to him early on.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's trying to get him to join her. And he's like, I can't, and clearly he could, but he's too scared to. Is the idea. And then we go to Peanuts, where Diane is Lucy from the Peanuts at her
yes,
at her lemon. Does she normally give advice for 5 cents? Isn't that what she does?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They have a conversation, and BoJack asks, "I screwed it all up. It's too late for me, isn't it?" And she goes, "I don't know. I'm just a crazy drug hallucination. I'll say whatever you want me to." And he goes, "Well, then tell me it's not too late." And she goes, "Well, it's not too late. It's never too late. It's never too late to be the person you want to be. You need to choose the life you want." And he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, wait a minute. This sounds good, right?
Yeah.
And then they kind of get sucked into like a black hole. But then we go to BoJack and Charlotte in Maine, and he's cutting wood. And
this is when I started to get filled with dread. It's like, and then it just keeps going.
Yep.
And you're like, oh no, stop dreaming about this. Stop it.
We basically live a lifetime in this small, minute window where they find out she's pregnant and everything's great. And then they have baby Harper the horse, who says "Dada" in a very cute way. And then Harper's a small child that's asking if BoJack would be her friend if they were the same age. And he's swimming with his daughter and they're getting along. And then his daughter's hanging out with some guy that drives a motorcycle. And so they're just like going through this life. And it's like, and I don't remember the exact quote, but she says, "Yeah, wouldn't this have been great if this is the life you had chosen?" or something along those lines. And that's when because
he's like, "What are you thinking about?" And she goes, "Just how nice things could have been if you had chosen this life."
Yes.
Like,
and then you see the dread on his face, and the thing kind of goes black. And you hear his phone ringing, and he's in the parking lot of the bar he often frequents in the rain with the phone. And the call is from Princess Carolyn, who says, "BoJack, I got your book, and it's gibberish."
And also, like, this is the worst fucking feeling in the world, too. Like, if you've ever, like, had a dream where something really good has happened, whatever it is, right? I know around our circles, there's a lot of people that talk about having dreams of, like, the next Kingdom Hearts game came out and I got to play it, and then I woke up and it was not there, like that kind of thing. But this is that turned to like, fucking 10 million.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like viscerally just really depressing. It's a very depressing and downer. It is a downer ending to that scenario, but we're not even.
Yeah, we're not
even to the downer ending.
We're not even done. So BoJack doesn't even seem to care that his book is gibberish and some embedded YouTube links, a recipe. It's just a bunch of nonsense, right? As you can only imagine. There's no way that was actually going to turn out to be a book.
No.
So we cut to Ghostwriter Con, The first ever
This
Ghostwriter Con.
this is the joke where the joke stuff where I was like, okay,
Really? You don't?
it's funny. It's funny. I just everything else is so fucking depressing and like by this point in the episode, I'm so out of it that I don't really laugh at any of these jokes.
My thought is it can't just be him showing up and giving the speech. They have to have something going on. Like,
I agree. Where I'm like,
where I'm not like, me and the homies aren't laughing our ass off at this. I think it's a good bit.
yeah,
Pinky just being astonished that no one understands what a ghostwriter is. Like I think the joke's lame. My question's for Tori Spelling, and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
Tori Spelling's not here.
yeah.
Like, this is their ghostwriter. But then the guy going, what's your favorite kind of ghost to write about? That
Yeah.
one's funny. I
Yeah.
like that bit. But Bojack shows up, and I actually have the full speech here, Sean.
Oh God! All right.
And he says, my question is for Diane. Look, I'm sorry about all the stuff I said about you earlier. We can publish the book you wrote. You're obviously a better writer than I am, and I don't actually even care what the world thinks about me anymore. I just hated reading that book because I hated feeling like that's how you saw me. Because I guess you know me better than anybody if you think that. I guess my question is, do you think it's too late for me? I mean, am I just doomed to be the person that I am? The person in that book? I mean, it's not too late for me, is it? It's not too late. Diane, I need you to tell me it's not too late. I need you to tell me that I'm a good person. I know that I can be selfish and narcissistic and self-destructive, but underneath all that, deep down, I'm a good person. And I need you to tell me that I'm good, Diane. Tell me, please, Diane, tell me that I'm good. And then it's this long silence.
Yeah.
And something I have never noticed before, Sean.
Okay.
Something I've never noticed, and I have the captions on when I watch these, which I always have, so I don't know how I never noticed this. But as the camera pans out, subtly in the background, you hear the sounds of ocean waves.
Yeah.
And Bojack's imaginary daughter, Harper, giggling in the background. I never noticed that in that.
I noticed it immediately because in my head I was starting to think, I was like, is this still part of the trip or is this real?
Right.
I couldn't really tell at first.
Yeah.
But I assume it's real.
Yeah. I'll tell you it's real.
Uh-huh.
And right when it hits the most uncomfortableness from the amount of silence, the guy from earlier that asked about the ghostwriter stands up and goes, "Hey, aren't you the horse from Horsing Around?"
Yep.
And that's how the episode ends. You do not hear Diane's answer.
You just recited the speech, and I gave the same exhale that the show got out of me. It was oh man. I wish I mean, yeah. I wish I had more to say about it. It just, I feel like it unfortunately, it maybe doesn't make for the greatest podcast, or maybe it does, and people enjoy hearing me affected by the show. But it really fucks me up, like just straight up, like this episode in particular really got me a lot.
Yeah, it's it kind of starts off, because it's definitely been a theme throughout the show so far, but it definitely really kicks off the idea. One of the core themes of the show is, what makes a person good, right? Or what makes a person who they are, like, is it their actions? Is it with their intention? Is it how they feel about it? What exactly makes that person good or bad, or morally gray or not? And it's something the show revisits quite a bit. And also another theme that's very tied in similarly is, people just constantly reaching and clawing and crawling and grabbing for happiness, and then getting what they want, but not being any happier for it, right? Which is definitely a thing a lot of people struggle with in life. And most people, I don't know anybody that got what they wanted and then was like completely happy. You know what I mean? Like that's just like you spend all this time thinking about what you want and what you know, and then you get it, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm still kind of there's still a void. There's still a, you know what I mean? Like so, this show
Yeah.
definitely examines that in a really real way, despite the goofy premise. But yeah, I love this episode. This is definitely the episode that's if you watch this episode and you don't like this show, you're probably not going to like this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're here now and you're like, you know, I don't really care for BoJack, you're not going to like it. Or if it's like if it's too heavy for you at this point, you might want to turn around.
Yeah, I love how heavy it is.
Right.
It definitely leaves me it's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm
very excited to finish this.
Tara started watching it with me a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think this is where she stopped, but I think if she were to you know,
watch to this point, she would have stopped here.
I think she if she was thinking about it, she would have stopped here. You know what I mean?
Okay, so she stopped later on.
She stopped a few episodes later, I think. I think we watched like half a season 2 or something.
Okay.
And then she was like, yeah, this show makes me sad. And I said, okay. You don't have to watch it, you know? Yeah, it's a lot. And it's not for everybody for sure, but I love it. I think it's a fascinating look at human nature and all this stuff, while also being a goofy show about a horseman, you know? And there's nothing quite like it. I know people compare it to Rick and Morty a lot, and I can't.
Fucking absolutely not.
I can't.
Yeah, no way.
I've never seen Rick and Morty, so I can't say. But people tend to compare it to Rick and Morty because they're like, ooh, Rick and Morty has like, you know, feelings or whatever they're saying, you know.
Sometimes. All right. To be fair, I haven't seen all of Rick and Morty. I've seen maybe the first 2 seasons or whatever. And I think the first 2 seasons of Rick and Morty are fine, right? I'm not like a Rick and Morty hater. I am, but I'm not going to say that I am.
You just said you were.
Shut up. But maybe there's one episode that made me feel a fraction of what this episode made me feel in Rick and Morty. Like this. Yeah, no, this episode is way like, and they're like, Rick and Morty isn't trying to do what this show is doing.
Right.
Rick and Morty is trying to occasionally give you a shocker feeling, right? Like it's so irreverent or whatever that when it does an episode that has any sprinkle of depth of feeling to it, that it's like, oh wow, holy shit. Whereas this episode, I think, or this show really has that as its underlying foundation, and then is ramping that up episode to episode.
I had spoken with Jason about it too, because Jason's seen both shows. And I said, "Is that comparison apt?" And he says, "Yeah, not really." He kind of echoed the same way you did. It's like people might compare it that way, but it's not. They're not the same thing at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, anyway, let's hit the categories real quick, Sean. What do you got?
Okay, I need your favorite animal-based joke from the episode, because I can't really think of one.
There weren't a ton. The one that comes to my mind immediately is the pigeon with the umbrella and in a suit at the beginning of the episode trying to fly, and he gets blown away by the wind. Other than that
was pretty good.
There weren't a ton of those in this episode, because it's such a contained, like, in BoJack's mind kind of deal. The BoJack looking in the mirror and seeing a real life actual horse, I think, would qualify as well, but that's just not really funny. It's more of a trippy thing. So I don't I don't know that there's a lot that you could say about that. They kind of stay away from that in this episode.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal yours because I can't really think of any other.
Oh, you know what the answer is, actually?
What is it?
It's Princess Carolyn coughing up the hairball on the phone.
No, that was gross. I didn't like that.
Yep, that's but she goes to clear her throat and she's like cough like cats do, uncomfortably cough up hairballs. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your favorite bit overall in the episode? this one's also tough.
It's tough because, like you said, there are jokes, but they're usually to the point of moving the crazy drug fueled,
I'll say
shit
it's
forward.
I'll steal this from you from earlier. Whenever Sarah Lynn laughs
Yeah.
at a joke and is like, we're like, is she really laughing or is she just trying to get him to shut up?
I actually have one we didn't reference.
Okay.
So as they're Sarah Lynn and Todd are typing and Bojack's standing in the kitchen and he goes, I can't believe Diane thought this was hard. And he goes, oh, my fingers are cramping from all this typing. It's like they're having their period. And Todd stops typing and he goes,
that was fucking weird.
Did Diane really say that? And Bojack goes, no, but my fingers are cramping. It's like they're having their period. So it's like he tried something he was thinking he tried to like place onto her.
Yeah.
So I'll say that bit. I liked that joke.
And what's your favorite quote from the episode?
Oh.
I think mine is just and I'm not going to quote it because I didn't write it down like word for word, but not Bojack's entire monologue, but him saying, I need you to tell me that I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful
yeah.
I'm going to say Todd's maybe I need to stop expecting you to be a good person so that way I won't get hurt.
That's a good one
not.
as well. Yeah.
Because that's like, obviously the end of this episode is very like emotionally poignant and like punches you in the gut. But that's like kind of the precursor to it, right? Where you're like, wait a minute, maybe this isn't just about haha funny drug trip, right?
And it's kind of a sucker punch too, right?
Right. They kind of hit you out of nowhere with it.
Yeah.
And you go, ooh. And Bojack's even like, okay.
Anyways, back to shooting each other, I think, maybe, quickly.
Right. Definitely. Next episode is titled Later. And it is the last episode in season 1 of BoJack Horseman, episode 12. Months after his memoir is released, Bojack's being considered for a role that's a lifelong dream.
Yo, is he going to get Secretariat?
Who knows?
I think we'll find out.
This episode is rated a 8.3 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which this episode we just watched was a 9.1 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to say that's yeah, wow.
But I do think 8.3 is in line with the rest of the episodes in this season that are good. Let me look.
And you've said that this kind of does the Game of Thrones thing where the second to last episode is really the big one.
Yeah.
And then it kind of wraps everything up in the end of the...
So the top three rated episodes in this season, Downer Ending, 9.1 out of 10. The Telescope, 8.5 out of 10.
Oh, wow. That's a big jump.
And then Later, 8.3 out of 10, the one we're about to watch.
Okay. All right.
Then everything else is under an 8.
All right.
On IMDb. Nothing under a 7, though. Good consistency in BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. And I assume it'll just keep ramping up.
Yeah, so we're gonna watch. We're gonna do the next episode next week, and then we'll be. I think we're gonna take a bit of a break, right, Sean?
Yeah. We're gonna. I mean, not just from people receiving episodes, obviously, but also we're just gonna take a short break. I got another podcast that is gonna be very busy at the beginning of the new year, so I just want to make sure that I get through all that stuff, and then we are going to keep going with season 2.
Yeah, and season 2 gets pretty wild.
Yeah, it won't be that long of a break for us recording. I'm not sure how long Mike will want to wait before putting out season 2 of the podcast. I figure it'll probably be a little bit after we start recording again because we'll want to bank up some episodes.
Yeah, it won't be long. It'll be some. I'm not going to commit to a time period, but it won't be that long.
Yeah, no.
I will tell you that the penultimate episode of season 2, so the second to last episode, is rated a 9.3 on IMDb.
Damn. All right.
So even better than Downer Ending. Little teaser for you. Also, sometime in there we have our the BoJack Horseman Christmas special, Sabrina's Christmas Wish, which on IMDb is listed as season 2, episode 0. So
okay.
It definitely happens in between. And that will have its own release date.
Oh God, that's so exciting.
Which is exciting. And then we'll be on to a new release date for season 2.
Are you excited about that? Are you like, are you done with this release date?
So no, I mean, I'm going to miss the second Ebola death for sure. And Kamala Harris, not so much Nico and Vince, but, I did spoil myself a long time. Like when we started this podcast, I looked at what season 2's was, but I don't remember it at all. So I'm pretty excited.
Oh, that's exciting. Can you? I don't want you to look at it until we're recording the first episode.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to. I don't plan on it. So, but anyway, guys, thank you for listening and watching. Sorry about last episode. If you want to listen to it, it's in the description. Otherwise, I think we gave a pretty succinct recap of it at the beginning of this episode.
Yes.
Sean, why don't you tell everybody where people can find you?
Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean_AFK. Everything that I do is on there. I retweet it, or I quote tweet it, or I tweet it from there, or whatever.
Okay. And you can follow me at SpikeGhetti Bros on Twitter or at twitch.tv/SuperSpikeGhetti Thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and we will see you next week. Go ahead, Sean. I almost want to say Sean. I almost want to say Sean hit him with it, but I'm like, wait a minute, that's my other podcast. Sorry, I interrupted it. That was good energy. Try to recapture that.
You know, it was good energy, but it wasn't in line with the rest of this week or this episode.
That's true.
Suck a dick, dumb shits.